Eddie Cochran was a true rock and roll legend. He burst onto the scene in the late 1950s with hits like Summertime Blues and Come On Everybody. Tragically, he would die at the young age of 21. Eddie Cochran, death by taxi. On April 17, 1960, Cochran was traveling with his girlfriend Sharon Sheely and fellow musician Gene Vincent when their taxi was involved in a serious accident in Chippenham, Wiltshire, England. The crash resulted in severe injuries for all three individuals, with Cochran succumbing to his wounds a day later on April 18th. Dolly West was an American country music singer, songwriter, and country music pioneer. She was one of the first female country artists to produce her own records and write her own songs. Dolly West, death by neighbor. On August 30, 1991, Dolly West was late for a performance at the Grand Ole Opry. Her vehicle stalled, so she flagged down a passing driver, who just happened to be her neighbor George Thaxton, who offered to drive her to the Opry. However, while taking the Opryland Highway exit ramp, Thaxton lost control of the car, which went airborne and struck an embankment. Reports indicated that Thaxton had taken the 25-mile-per-hour exit ramp at an estimated 55 miles per hour. Dolly West would later succumb to her injuries in the hospital. Lisu Lopez was an American singer, rapper, and dancer who rose to fame as a member of the popular R&B girl group TLC. Born in Philadelphia in 1971, Lopez had a distinctive style and powerful vocals that made her a standout performer. She also co-wrote many of the group's hit songs, including their smash hit Waterfalls. Lisu Lopez, death by lack of seatbelt. On April 25, 2002, Lopez was behind the wheel of a rented Mitsubishi Montero SUV in La Ceiba, Honduras. She swerved to avoid a truck, then an oncoming car, causing the vehicle to roll several times and hit two trees. Lopez and three others were ejected from the windows, and the SUV came to a halt in a roadside ditch. She died on the spot, not having worn a seatbelt. Tom Mix was a legendary American film actor and star of the early Western genre. These action-packed Westerns made him a major box office draw throughout the 1920s. Known for his daring stunts and charismatic screen presence, Mix appeared in over 300 films during the silent film era and the early talkies. Tom Mix, death by detour. On October 12, 1940, legendary actor and cowboy Tom Mix died in a car accident 18 miles south of Florence, Arizona. After visiting the Pima County Sheriff in Tucson, Mix was taking a detour when his car overturned, resulting in his tragic death at the age of 60. Jack Angland was an American country music singer and songwriter who rose to prominence in the 1940s and 1950s as part of the country music duo the Angland Brothers. Jack Angland, death by funeral. Angland and Patsy Cline were close friends, and he was devastated upon hearing the news of her untimely death in a plane crash just a few days earlier. Determined to pay his respects, Angland set out to drive to the funeral, but sadly, he never made it. He died in a car crash en route to the funeral on March 8, 1963. He was 47 years old. Harry Chapin was an American singer-songwriter best known for his story songs that often chronicled the human condition. Born in 1942 in New York, Chapin gained fame in the 1970s with his iconic hit songs Taxi and Cats in the Cradle. Harry Chapin, death by trucker. On the afternoon of July 16, 1981, Chapin was driving on the Long Island Expressway en route to perform at a free benefit concert when his 1975 Volkswagen Rabbit was violently rear-ended by a semi-trailer. Chapin was taken by helicopter from the crash site to the nearby Nassau County Medical Center, where he would succumb to his injuries. He was only 38. Jessica Savage was a trailblazer, becoming one of the first women to anchor a major network news program in the United States. She was admired for her ability to tackle complex issues with poise and authority, making her a respected figure in the industry. Jessica Savage, death by canal. Tragically, on the evening of October 23, 1983, Savage and her companion, Martin Fishbein, were driving on a dark, winding road in New Hope, Pennsylvania, when their car veered off the road and plunged into a canal. This watery grave would claim both their lives. Ernie Kovat was a true pioneer of television comedy. Kovat had a unique and irreverent comedic style, blending slapstick, absurdist humor, and visual gags in a way that was way ahead of its time. Ernie Kovat's death by power pole. In the early hours of January 13, 1962, Kovat lost control of his Chevrolet Corvair station wagon, crashing into a power pole in West Los Angeles. He was ejected from the passenger side of the vehicle and succumbed almost immediately to chest and head injuries. Kovat was 42 years old at the time of his untimely passing. Leon Brown Chu Berry was a pioneering jazz sax musician who made significant contributions to the development of bebop in the 1940s. Known for his virtuosic technique and melodic improvisation, Berry was a key figure in the transition from the swing era to the more complex and harmonically advanced bebop style. Leon Brown Chu Berry, death by impact. On October 27, 1941, while traveling on a highway in Conneaut, Ohio, Berry's car was involved in a head-on collision with another vehicle. The 33-year-old musician succumbed instantly to injuries sustained from the impact. Isidora Duncan was a true pioneer in the world of modern dance. She rejected the rigid and restrictive techniques of classical ballet, instead embracing a more natural, free-flowing style. Today, she is widely regarded as one of the most important figures in the history of modern dance. Isidora Duncan, death by scarf. On September 14, 1927, the acclaimed dancer Isidora Duncan met a tragic end in a bizarre traffic accident in Nice, France. While riding as a passenger in an Amilcar CGSS automobile, her lengthy, billowing, hand-painted silk scarf got caught in the wheel well, entwining with the open-spoked wheels and rear axle, which resulted in her being yanked from the vehicle and suffering a fatal neck injury. Nicholas Dingley, better known by his stage name Razzle, was an English musician who was the drummer of the Finnish glam rock band Hanoi Rocks from 1982 until his untimely passing. Razzle, death by beer run. On December 8th, Hanoi Rocks band members were partying with Motley Crue at lead singer Vince Neil's house. The party stopped when everybody noticed they were out of beer. Neil and Razzle, both intoxicated, went to a nearby liquor store in Neil's de Tomaso Pantera, with Neil driving. On the way back, they crashed into another car. Razzle died instantly in the collision. Pel Lindberg was a Swedish professional ice hockey goaltender who played in the National Hockey League, NHL, for the Philadelphia Flyers. His career was tragically cut short when he died in a car accident at the age of 26. Pel Lindberg, death by wall. Pel Lindberg, the esteemed goalie for the Philadelphia Flyers, passed away on November 11, 1985, following a tragic accident where he lost control of his Porsche 930 Turbo and collided with a wall. This occurred just 5 months after he had guided the Flyers to the Stanley Cup final and had been awarded the Vezina Trophy, recognizing him as the league's top goalie. Steve Prefontaine was an American long-distance runner who competed in the 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich, West Germany. He held the American records in 7 track events and is considered one of the greatest American distance runners of all time. Steve Prefontaine, death by drinking. In the world of sports, there are few stories as heartbreaking as the untimely passing of Steve Prefontaine, the legendary American long-distance runner. On May 29, 1975, after leaving a party with friends, Prefontaine's life was cut short at the young age of 24 when he was involved in a fatal car accident near his home in Eugene, Oregon. Police determined his blood alcohol content was 2 times over the legal limit. Ryan Dunn was an American stunt performer, television personality, and actor best known as a member of the Jackass crew. Dunn's fearless and comedic personality made him a fan favorite on Jackass. Ryan Dunn, Death by Speed. On June 20, 2011, Ryan Dunn and Zachary Hartwell, a production assistant on Jackass No. 2, were driving back from Barnaby's, a bar in Westchester, in Dunn's Porsche GT3. Dunn lost control of the vehicle, veered off the road, and hit a tree, causing the Porsche to burst into flames in West Goshen Township, Chester County, Pennsylvania. Both Dunn, who had just turned 34 9 days earlier, and Hartwell, who was 30, perished in the accident. Johnny Horton got his start in the 1950s and quickly made a name for himself with hits like The Battle of New Orleans and North to Alaska. He had this way of taking historical events and turning them into these epic, larger-than-life tunes. His songs had this awesome mix of storytelling and catchy melodies that just made you want to sing along. Johnny Horton, Death by Collision. On November 5, 1960, Horton, along with band members Tommy Tomlinson and Tillman Franks, were en route from the Skyline Club in Austin, Texas, to Shreveport. Their vehicle collided head-on with a truck on a bridge near Milano in Milam County, Texas. Sadly, Horton succumbed to his injuries while being transported to the hospital. Tomlinson sustained serious injuries resulting in the amputation of his leg, and Franks incurred head injuries. Tragically, Johnny Horton was gone at the age of 35. Tim Horton, a Canadian professional ice hockey player, had a distinguished career in the National Hockey League, NHL, from 1949 until 1974. He spent the majority of his career playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, later playing with the New York Rangers, Pittsburgh Penguins, and Buffalo Sabres. In 2017, he was posthumously recognized as one of the 100 greatest NHL players. Beyond his notable achievements on the ice, Horton is also celebrated for establishing the beloved Canadian coffee and donut franchise, Tim Hortons. Tim Horton, Death by Tiredness. Horton died in St. Catharines, Ontario, in the early morning of February 21, 1974, after losing control of his De Tomaso Pantera sports car on the Queen Elizabeth Way. The night before, he had participated in a game in Toronto against his old team, the Maple Leafs. He was traveling solo to Buffalo, which is 99 miles south, after the game. Although the Sabres were defeated and Horton had to sit out the third period due to a jaw and ankle injury, he was still named one of the game's top 3 stars. In the world of rock and metal music, the name Cozy Powell is one that commands respect and admiration. Powell was an English drummer who had a prolific career spanning several decades. Known for his powerful and dynamic drumming style, Powell played with a number of renowned rock and metal bands throughout his career, including Rainbow, Black Sabbath, and Whitesnake. Cozy Powell, Death by Booze and Speed. On April 5, 1998, Powell was driving his Saab 9000 on the M4 motorway in Gloucestershire, England, when he lost control of the car at high speed. The vehicle veered off the road and collided with a bridge support. Powell died instantly. He was only 50 years old. The police later found that his blood alcohol level exceeded the legal limit. Steve Allen was an American television and radio personality, comedian, musician, composer, writer, and actor. He became nationally recognized in 1954 as the co-creator and first host of The Tonight Show, pioneering the late-night television talk show format. Steve Allen, Death by Delay. On October 30, 2000, Allen was involved in a minor traffic crash while traveling to visit his youngest son at home in Los Angeles. A driver struck the side of Allen's car while backing out of a driveway, causing Allen to unknowingly suffer a ruptured blood vessel. He did not realize he was seriously hurt. After Allen arrived at his son's home, he took a nap and died in his sleep. Joe Lara was an American actor and singer, best known for his portrayal of Tarzan in the 1989 television series Tarzan in Manhattan and the 1994 film Tarzan. Tragically, Lara's life was cut short in 2021. Joe Lara, death by jet plane. On May 29, 2021, the small jet he was piloting crashed into Percy Priest Lake near Smyrna, Tennessee, shortly after takeoff. His wife, Gwen Shamblin Lara, and 5 others who were on board, all perished in this tragic plane crash. Jenny Rivera was a renowned Mexican-American singer, songwriter, actress, television producer, and entrepreneur. Born in Long Beach, California in 1969, she released numerous hit albums before her untimely demise. Jenny Rivera, death by tour schedule. Rivera perished in an aircraft accident in the early hours of December 9, 2012, when the Learjet carrying her and 6 other individuals crashed near Monterrey, Mexico. She had been in the city for a performance at the Monterrey Arena the night before. She was 43 years old. Stevie Ray Vaughan was best known as the guitarist and frontman of the blues rock trio Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble. He is regarded as one of the most influential musicians in the history of blues music and one of the greatest guitarists of all time. Stevie Ray Vaughan, death by helicopter. The legendary blues guitarist tragically died on August 27, 1990. He and 4 others on board perished in a helicopter crash near East Troy, Wisconsin, following a performance at the Alpine Valley Music Theater. The crash was attributed to pilot error amid adverse weather conditions. Vaughan was just 35 years old at the time of his untimely demise. Jim Croce was one of the most talented singer-songwriters of his era, but his life was tragically cut short. Known for his distinctive baritone voice and storytelling style, Croce crafted timeless hits like Time in a Bottle and Bad, Bad Leroy Brown. Jim Croce, death by pilot error. Jim Croce died on September 20, 1973, when his chartered plane collided with a tree shortly after departure from an airport in Natchitoches, Louisiana. The crash also claimed the lives of Croce's guitarist, Maury Moorleisen, and 5 other individuals. He was only 30 years old at the time of his untimely departure. Patsy Cline was a true icon of country music. Some of Cline's most iconic songs include Crazy, I Fall to Pieces, and Walking After Midnight. She is considered one of the most influential and acclaimed vocalists in country music history. Tragically, her life would be cut short. Patsy Cline, death by small plane. On March 5, 1963, at the age of 30. Cline was traveling from Kansas City, Missouri to Nashville, Tennessee, along with her manager Randy Hughes and fellow musicians Hawkshaw Hawkins and Cowboy Copas. The small plane encountered severe weather and crashed into a hillside near Camden, Tennessee. All on board perished in the crash. Rocky Marciano was an American professional boxer who began his professional boxing career in 1947 and quickly rose through the ranks, winning the heavyweight title in 1952. He is the only heavyweight champion to have retired undefeated. Rocky Marciano, death by pilot error. Marciano died in a plane crash on August 31, 1969. The crash involved a Cessna 172 aircraft, which went down in Newton, Iowa, due to adverse weather conditions and pilot inexperience with night flying. Marciano was en route to celebrate his 46th birthday the following day when tragedy struck. Aaliyah was an American singer, actress, and model who rose to fame in the 1990s. She began her musical career at a young age, performing in local talent shows and church choirs, becoming a superstar by the age of 22. She has been credited with helping to redefine contemporary R&B, pop, and hip-hop. earning her the nickname the Princess of R&B. Aaliyah, death by overload. On August 25, 2001, Aaliyah, age 22, perished in an airplane crash in the Bahamas, along with 8 others. The aircraft was heavily overloaded and plummeted to the ground shortly after takeoff. Troy Gentry was an American country music singer and one half of the popular country duo Montgomery Gentry. Some of Montgomery Gentry's biggest hits included My Town, Something to Be Proud Of, and Gone. The duo was inducted into the Grand Ole Opry in 2009 and won numerous awards, including the CMA Vocal Duo of the Year in 2000. Troy Gentry, death by helicopter. Gentry tragically passed away in a helicopter crash on September 8, 2017. The accident occurred in Medford, New Jersey. The National Transportation Safety Board determined that pilot error led to the crash. Otis Reading was an American singer, songwriter, and record producer who is considered one of the greatest singers in the history of soul and R&B music. Reading was at the peak of his career, having recently released the hit song Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay, before he had his promising career cut short. Otis Reading, death by lake. Otis Reading, the iconic soul singer, met a tragic end in a plane crash on December 10, 1967. The aircraft plummeted into Lake Monona, close to Madison, Wisconsin, taking the lives of Reading and several band members. He was only 26 years old. Ricky Nelson first rose to fame in the 1950s and 1960s as a child star, appearing alongside his family in the popular television sitcom The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. He later transitioned into a successful music career, becoming one of the first teen idols and a pioneer of rock and roll. Some of Nelson's most well-known hits include Hello, Mary Lou, Travelin' Man, and Garden Party. Ricky Nelson, death by faulty heater. Ricky Nelson, the American pop singer, died in a plane crash on December 31, 1985. The crash occurred near DeKalb, Texas, when a fire, suspected to have been caused by a faulty in-cabin heater, broke out mid-flight, filling the cabin with toxic fumes. Nelson, along with 6 others, including his fiancée and several band members, perished in the accident. The 2 pilots survived. John Denver was a beloved singer-songwriter known for his iconic folk-pop hits. Some of his most well-known songs include Take Me to Tomorrow, Rocky Mountain High, and Country Roads, which have become timeless classics, resonating with listeners across the globe. John Denver, death by home-built aircraft. Denver died on the afternoon of October 12, 1997, when his light home-built aircraft that he had recently purchased, a Rutan Long EZ, crashed into Monterey Bay near Pacific Grove, California, while making a series of touch-and-go landings at the nearby Monterey Peninsula Airport. The official cause of death was multiple blunt force trauma resulting from the crash. Glenn Miller was an American big band musician, arranger, composer, and bandleader. He was the best-selling recording artist from 1939 to 1942, leading one of the best-known dance bands of the swing era. Some of his most popular recordings include In the Mood, Chattanooga Choo Choo, A String of Pearls, and Moonlight Serenade. Glenn Miller, death by mystery. On December 15, 1944, the legendary bandleader Glenn Miller boarded a plane headed from the UK to Paris, France. Little did he know that this would be his final journey. The plane carrying Miller vanished without a trace, leaving behind a mystery that has puzzled historians and music fans for decades. Amelia Earhart was a true trailblazer. She paved the way for women in aviation and inspired generations to pursue their dreams, no matter how impossible they may seem. Earhart was the first female aviator to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean, accomplishing this feat in 1932. Amelia Earhart, death by plane crash. Amelia Earhart, the pioneering aviator, captivated the world with her record-breaking flights and her mysterious disappearance. On July 2, 1937, Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan vanished while attempting to cross the Pacific Ocean on their way to Howland Island. The fate of their plane and the two pilots has remained one of aviation's greatest unsolved mysteries. Kobe Bryant was an American professional basketball player who spent his entire 20-year career with the Los Angeles Lakers in the National Basketball Association. He was widely regarded as one of the greatest players of all time. Kobe Bryant, death by helicopter. On January 26, 2020, the NBA legend, along with his 13-year-old daughter Gianna and 7 others, perished in the accident near Calabasas, California. The helicopter was en route to Kobe's Mamba Sports Academy in Thousand Oaks, where Gianna was scheduled to play in a basketball tournament. Tragically, the helicopter encountered heavy fog and crashed into a hillside, leaving no survivors. Roy Halladay was a legendary Major League Baseball pitcher who played for the Toronto Blue Jays and Philadelphia Phillies. He is regarded as one of the greatest pitchers of all time. Roy Halladay, death by stunt maneuvers. Roy Halladay, the former MLB standout pitcher, met a tragic end in a plane crash on November 7, 2017. He was piloting his Icon A5 airplane when it went down in the Gulf of Mexico, close to Newport Richey, Florida. An investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board found that Halladay had been executing risky maneuvers at low altitude prior to the accident. Carole Lombard was an American film actress who rose to prominence during the golden age of Hollywood. Born Jane Alice Peters in 1908, she was known for her comedic talents and glamorous on-screen presence. In 1999, the American Film Institute ranked Lombard 23rd on its list of the greatest female stars of classic Hollywood cinema. Carole Lombard, death by change of plans. Carole Lombard and her mother were returning from a triumphant war bond tour in Indiana. They had initially planned to travel by train. However, a last-minute decision led to Lombard boarding the ill-fated flight on January 16, 1942. She and her mother were on the TWA flight from Las Vegas to Los Angeles when it tragically crashed into Nevada's Potosi Mountain. The crash claimed the lives of all 22 passengers on board. Lombard was only 33 years old. When we think of celebrities, we often picture glitz, glamour, and a life free from the troubles that plague everyday folks. But the truth is, some stars have met their untimely ends in ways that are downright shocking. Take Mike Edwards, for instance. He was a former member of the classic rock band ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, known for their innovative sound and orchestral flair. Mike Edwards, death by hay bale. Sadly, Mike's life came to a tragic conclusion in 2010 when he was killed in an accident involving a runaway hay bale. Yes, you read that right. A hay bale. While driving his van on a country road in England, the massive round bale rolled down a hill and crushed his vehicle. This incident serves as a stark reminder of how unpredictable life can be, no matter how famous or talented you are. Anne Heche was a talented actress whose life was tragically cut short. She had a long and successful career in film and television, starring in hits like Donnie Brasco, 6 Days, 7 Nights, and Psycho. On August 5, 2022, Heche was involved in a sequence of 3 motor vehicle collisions in Los Angeles, the final collision claiming her life and destroying a house. Sam Kinison, who was a former Pentecostal preacher, was a force of nature in the world of stand-up comedy. Known for his wild energy, outrageous style, and piercing voice, he carved out a unique niche that still resonates with audiences today. Sam Kinison, death by drunk driver. On April 10, 1992, Kinnison was driving his Pontiac Turbo Trans Am when it was struck head-on Needles Highway northwest of Needles, California, by a pickup truck. The driver had been drinking and was driving on a suspended license. Jayne Mansfield was a true Hollywood icon of the 1950s and 60s. Known for her bombshell looks and larger-than-life personality, she was one of the most recognizable celebrities of her era. Jayne Mansfield, death by tractor trailer. On June 29, 1967, Mansfield and family were heading to New Orleans on U.S. Highway 90 when they ran into the rear of a Johnson Motor Freight Lines tractor trailer. The 3 adults in the front seat and 2 of the dogs died instantly. The children, asleep in the rear seat, survived with minor injuries. Actor James Dean was one of the most iconic figures of the 20th century. He embodied a sense of youthful rebellion that resonated with audiences then and continues to do so today. James Dean, death by tragic accident. At the height of his career, Dean died after slamming into the side of a 1950 Ford Tudor while driving his Porsche 550 Spyder en route to a race. He was only 24 years old at the time of his untimely demise. Judy Tyler was an American actress who rose to prominence in the 1950s and was a rising star. Tyler's most notable role was as Meg Brock in the 1957 film Jailhouse Rock, where she would star opposite Elvis Presley. Tragically, her life would be cut short at the age of 24. Judy Tyler, death by head-on collision. A few days after filming Jailhouse Rock, Tyler and her husband began driving home to New York from Hollywood. While driving through Wyoming on July 3, 1957, she collided head-on with another vehicle. Tyler died instantly. Her husband died the following day. Brandon DeWilde was a child actor who had a brief but memorable career in Hollywood. He landed his breakout role in the 1953 film Shane, earning an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor at just 7 years old. Despite his early success, his life ultimately took a tragic turn. Brandon DeWilde, death by guardrail. On July 6, 1972, Brandon was driving alone in a camper van. He lost control, struck a guardrail and a parked truck, causing the van to roll. Unfortunately, he wasn't wearing a seatbelt and was pinned in the wreckage. Despite being taken to the hospital, he succumbed to his injuries. He was gone at the age of 30. Billy Martin was a legendary figure in the world of baseball. A former player turned manager, he was known for his fiery personality, strategic brilliance, and tumultuous relationships with players and management. As a manager, he led several teams to success, including the New York Yankees, Oakland Athletics, and Minnesota Twins. And did you know he was 5 times the manager of the New York Yankees? Billy Martin, death by drainage culvert. Martin was in a single-vehicle accident on Christmas Day, 1989. His vehicle ran into a drainage culvert near the entrance of the driveway to his farm in Port Crane, north of Binghamton, New York. He was pronounced dead at a hospital in Johnson City, New York, later that day. He was 61 years old. Herb Brooks was a legendary hockey coach who led the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team to an improbable gold medal victory. His famous Miracle on Ice victory over the Soviet Union at the 1980 Olympics is considered one of the greatest upsets in sports history. Herb Brooks' death by sleep. On the afternoon of August 11, 2003, 6 days after his 66th birthday, Brooks died in a single-car accident on Interstate 35 near Forest Lake, Minnesota. It is believed that he fell asleep behind the wheel. His vehicle veered off the highway and crashed. George S. Patton was one of the most iconic military leaders of World War II. He played a crucial role in the Allied victory. Patton was known for his bold and aggressive leadership style, as well as his unwavering commitment to victory, and is a towering figure in military history. George S. Patton, death by unfortunate accident. Patton was in Germany on December 9, 1945, while heading to a pheasant hunt. The 1938 Cadillac limousine driving them to the hunt collided with an American Army truck. He suffered severe injuries, including a broken neck. He died 12 days later at the age of 60 in the hospital. The official cause of death was listed as pulmonary edema and heart failure. Desmond Lellan was a Welsh actor best known for his portrayal of Q, the eccentric but brilliant gadget master who provided James Bond with an array of high-tech gizmos to aid him on his missions. He appeared in 17 Bond films and continued in this role until his untimely demise in 1999. Desmond Lellan, death by speed. On the 19th of December 1999, Lellan was driving alone from a book signing event when his Renault Megane collided head-on with a Fiat Bravo on the A27 near the village of Berwick, East Sussex. Lellan sustained massive internal injuries and was airlifted by helicopter to Eastbourne District General Hospital, where he died soon afterward at the age of 85. Pierre L was a French racing driver who competed in Formula One and sports car racing during the 1950s. He is best known for his involvement in the 1955 Le Mans disaster, one of the deadliest accidents in motorsport history. Pierre L, death by grandstand. At the 1955 24 Hours of Le Mans race, Leve's Mercedes-Benz car collided with another vehicle, launching it into the grandstand. Pierre L, along with 83 spectators, would lose their lives that fateful day. Bessie Smith was a renowned American blues singer who rose to prominence in the 1920s. Known as the Empress of the Blues, she signed with Columbia Records in 1923 and went on to record numerous hit songs. Her music had a profound impact on the development of blues and jazz. Bessie Smith, death by lover. On September 26, 1937, Smith was traveling with her lover Richard Morgan, who was driving when they were involved in a collision on Highway 61 near Clarksdale, Mississippi. Smith sustained critical injuries and was rushed to a local hospital, where she later succumbed to her wounds. Her lover escaped with only minor injuries. Mel Ott was a legendary American baseball player who made his MLB debut in 1926 at the young age of 17 and quickly established himself as a dominant power hitter. He spent his entire 22-year career with the New York Giants. Born in 1909, Ott is considered one of the greatest right fielders in the history of the game. Mel Ott, death by collision. Ott was in a horrible auto accident in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, in November 1958. He was transferred to the hospital, where he died a week later at the age of 49. Ott died in a similar manner to two other New York Giants Hall of Famers, Frankie Frisch in 1973 and Carl Hubbell in 1988. Dwayne Alman was an American guitarist and co-founder of the influential Southern rock band, the Allman Brothers Band. Born in 1946 in Tennessee, Alman is widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential guitarists of all time. Dwayne Alman, death by Harley-Davidson. On October 29, 1971, while the band was on a break from touring and recording, Alman was riding his Harley-Davidson motorcycle at high speed when a flatbed boom truck stopped suddenly in the intersection. He died several hours later from injuries sustained in the accident. He was only 24 years old. Bob Clark was a highly acclaimed film director and screenwriter who rose to prominence in the 1970s and 1980s. He was responsible for some of the most successful and iconic films of that era, including Porky's, 1981, and the beloved holiday film A Christmas Story, 1983. Bob Clark, death by drunk driver. Clark and his younger son, Ariel Clark, age 22, died in a head-on collision on the Pacific Coast Highway in Pacific Palisades, Los Angeles, on the morning of April 4, 2007. The accident happened when an SUV crossed the median and collided with Clark's vehicle, leading to an 8-hour closure of the highway. The police found that the SUV driver, Hector Manuel Velázquez Nava, had a blood alcohol content 3 times over the legal limit and was operating the vehicle without a license. Lisa Baines was an acclaimed American actress known for her roles in film and television. Some of Baines's most well-known film credits include the comedy blockbuster Cocktail, 1988, starring Tom Cruise, the thriller Gone Girl, 2014, and the comedy A Cure for Wellness, 2016. On television, she had recurring roles in shows such as Nashville and Royal Pains. Lisa Baines, death by scooter. On June 4, 2021, Baines was in a marked crosswalk in Manhattan when she was struck by a person operating an electric scooter, falling to the ground and hitting her head on the pavement. The scooter rider fled the scene. Baines was admitted to Mount Sinai Morningside Hospital with a traumatic brain injury and died there 10 days later at the age of 65. Bob Simon was a renowned American journalist who spent over 40 years reporting for CBS News. He was known for his insightful coverage of major global events and his ability to bring complex stories to life through his vivid storytelling. He amassed an amazing 27 Emmy Awards and 5 Peabody Awards throughout his career. Bob Simon, death by limo driver. Simon, the longtime 60 Minutes correspondent and legendary CBS News reporter, died on February 11, 2015 in a car accident after his for-hire limo driver was in a collision with another vehicle in New York City. Simon was extracted from the roof of the limo by rescue workers and transported to St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital, where he died a short time later. He was 73 years old. Tara Brown was a fascinating figure whose life and untimely death inspired one of the most iconic songs in the Beatles' catalog, A Day in the Life, written by John Lennon. As the heir to the multi-billion-dollar Guinness fortune, Brown moved in elite social circles and counted Paul McCartney and the Beatles among his close friends. Tara Brown, death by alcohol. On December 17, 1966, Brown was speeding through South Kensington in his Lotus Elan with his friend, model Suki Potier. Intoxicated, he missed a traffic light, swerved to miss a car, and crashing into a parked vehicle. He succumbed to his injuries the next day. He was 21 years old. Potier later stated that Brown had swerved the car to take the brunt of the crash, potentially saving her life. Victor Davis, the Canadian swimmer, is widely regarded as one of the greatest breaststrokers of all time. He is particularly renowned for his performances in the 200-meter breaststroke, an event in which he set multiple world records and won gold medals at the 1984 and 1988 Olympics. Victor Davis, death by argument. On November 13, 1989, after an argument outside of a nightclub, Davis had walked to the middle of the road and was brandishing a juice bottle at the man who was getting in his vehicle. The man proceeded to run him over. He would die 2 days later in the hospital. He was 25 years old. Albert Camus was a renowned French philosopher, author, and journalist who made significant contributions to the philosophical movement of absurdism. Makes me think about some of the comments I get. Born in 1913 in Mondovi, French Algeria, Camus is widely recognized as one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century. Albert Camus, death by publisher. Albert Camus tragically died in a car accident on January 4, 1960, near Sens, France. He was returning to Paris with his publisher Michel Gallimard, who was driving the car. The accident occurred when Gallimard lost control and crashed into a tree. Albert Camus was gone at the age of 46. Roger Earl Mosley was an American actor, director, and producer. Born on December 18, 1942, in Los Angeles, California, he started his acting career in the 1970s with roles in various television shows and movies. His most notable role was as the helicopter pilot T.C. in the hit series Magnum P.I., starring alongside Tom Selleck, which premiered in 1980. Mosley's tenure on Magnum P.I. was significant. He appeared in all 162 episodes over the show's 8 seasons. His performance as the affable and loyal T.C. brought him widespread recognition and critical praise. Roger E. Mosley, death by crash. On August 4, 2022, Mosley was involved in a severe car accident in Linwood, California, which left him critically injured and paralyzed from the shoulders down. He succumbed to his injuries on August 7, 2022, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center at the age of 83. Thurman Munson was an American professional baseball player who spent his entire 11-year career in Major League Baseball as the catcher for the New York Yankees. He was a 7-time All-Star, the 1976 American League MVP, and a key member of the Yankees' World Series championship teams in 1977 and 1978. Thurman Munson, death by jet. On August 2, 1979, New York Yankees captain Thurman Munson died in a plane crash near his home in Canton, Ohio. Munson was piloting his private jet. He was 32 years old at the time, cutting short the career and life of a true Yankees legend. Leonard Skinnard is a legendary American rock band. At the heart of Leonard Skinnard's success was the songwriting prowess of the original members, particularly the trio of Ronnie Van Zant, Gary Rossington, and Allen Collins. Their songs, such as the iconic Free Bird and Sweet Home Alabama, have become staples of classic rock radio. Leonard Skinnard, Tragedy by Lack of Fuel. On October 20, 1977, the band's chartered plane ran out of fuel and crashed in a wooded area of Mississippi, claiming the lives of frontman Ronnie Van Zant, guitarist Steve Gaines, and backup singer Cassie Gaines, among others. Audi Murphy was an American hero, soldier, songwriter, and actor. Born into poverty in Texas, he overcame a difficult childhood to become the most decorated soldier of World War II. He would go on to star in dozens of Hollywood westerns. Audi Murphy, death by mountain. The details surrounding Murphy's plane crash are both harrowing and mysterious. On May 28, 1971, he boarded a private jet that was headed from Atlanta to Roanoke, Virginia. Shortly after takeoff, the plane experienced engine failure and crashed into a mountainside. All 6 on board perished in the crash. Payne Stewart was a professional golfer who achieved great success on the PGA Tour. Known for his distinctive knickers and tam o'shanter cap, Stewart had a flair for the dramatic and was beloved by golf fans around the world. Payne Stewart, death by field. On October 25, 1999, the private jet carrying the famous golfer and several others mysteriously lost cabin pressure, causing everyone on board to lose consciousness. The plane continued flying on autopilot until it eventually ran out of fuel and crashed in a field in South Dakota. Payne Stewart and 5 others on board all perished in the crash. Randy Rhoads was one of the most talented and influential guitarists in the history of heavy metal. He is best known for his work with Ozzy Osbourne in the early 1980s, where he helped define the sound of Osbourne's solo career after leaving Black Sabbath. Randy Rhoads' death by prank gone wrong. The tragic plane crash that took the life of guitar virtuoso Randy Rhoads is a somber moment in rock history. On March 19, 1982, Rhoads died when the small plane he was traveling in clipped the Ozzy Osbourne tour bus and crashed. Rhoads was just 25 years old at the time of the accident. Will Rogers, an American humorist, actor, and social commentator, charmed audiences with his witty observations and relatable charm. By the mid-1930s, Rogers had become a household name in the United States and was among the highest-paid Hollywood film stars. Will Rogers, death by takeoff. On August 15, 1935, Will Rogers and aviation pioneer Wiley Post died in a plane crash near Point Barrow, Alaska. They were flying in a Lockheed hybrid airplane when the engine stalled shortly after takeoff, causing the plane to crash into a lagoon. Both men died instantly. Roberto Clemente was a true legend both on and off the baseball field. He was a 15-time All-Star, 12-time Gold Glove winner, and led the Pittsburgh Pirates to a World Series championship in 1971. But Clemente was more than just a talented athlete. He was a humanitarian who dedicated his life to helping others. Roberto Clemente, death by circumstance. Clemente's life was cut short on December 31, 1972, when the plane he was traveling in crashed while delivering relief supplies to earthquake victims in Nicaragua. He was just 38 years old. But his legacy lives on as one of the most beloved and respected figures in baseball history. The day the music died was a tragic event that shook the music world. On February 3, 1959, a plane crash in Iowa claimed the lives of three of the biggest stars in rock and roll history: Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper. It's a day that will forever be etched in the minds of music lovers as a tragic turning point in the history of rock and roll. The day the music died. On February 3, 1959, the plane, chartered to take the three musicians to their next tour stop after a show in Clear Lake, Iowa, encountered severe weather and crashed just minutes after takeoff. Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper all died instantly, cutting short the careers and lives of these immensely talented artists who were at the peak of their popularity. Graham Hill was a true legend of motorsport. As the only driver to have won the coveted Triple Crown of Motorsport, which includes victories at the Indianapolis 500, the Monaco Grand Prix, and the 24 Hours of Le Mans, cementing his place in history as one of the greatest racers of all time. Graham Hill, death by Piper Aztec. Hill died in a plane crash on November 29, 1975. He was piloting a Piper Aztec light aircraft when it crashed near Arkley in Hertfordshire, United Kingdom, while approaching Elstree Airfield. The crash also claimed the lives of the 5 other passengers on board, who were key members of his Embassy Hill racing team. John F. Kennedy Jr. was a prominent figure who captured the public's imagination. He was a son of President John F. Kennedy and First Lady Jackie Kennedy. He carved out his own path, becoming a successful magazine publisher and lawyer. John F. Kennedy Jr., death by wedding. John F. Kennedy Jr., his wife Carolyn Bessette, and her sister Lauren Bessette tragically died in a plane crash on July 16, 1999. Kennedy was piloting his Piper Saratoga aircraft en route to a wedding when it crashed into the Atlantic Ocean near Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. Tony Lema burst onto the PGA Tour in the early 1960s, and his rise to stardom was swift. Within just a few years of turning pro, he had won multiple tournaments, including the 1964 Open Championship at St. Andrews, cementing his status as a rising superstar. Tony Lema, death by lack of fuel. Lema died in a plane crash on July 24, 1966. The crash occurred in Lansing, Illinois, as Lema was traveling to an exhibition tournament following the PGA Championship in Akron, Ohio. The plane reportedly ran out of fuel and crashed onto a golf course. Sadly, all 4 people on board, including Lema's wife, perished in the accident. Stan Rogers was a Canadian folk singer-songwriter whose songs were inspired by historical facts. His songs often told the stories of fishermen, loggers, and railway workers. He was just gaining popularity at the time of his untimely demise. Stan Rogers, death by fire. Rogers died on June 2, 1983, at the age of 33. He perished in a fire on Air Canada Flight 797, which occurred while the plane was on the tarmac at the Greater Cincinnati Airport. The tragic incident also claimed the lives of 22 others. Art Scholl was a legendary American aviator, cinematographer, and stunt pilot. He was known for his daring aerial maneuvers, performing incredible feats for movies like Top Gun and The Right Stuff. Art Scholl, death by stunt gone wrong. Scholl died September 16, 1985, performing a daring stunt during the filming of Top Gun when his Pitts S-2 camera plane failed to recover from an intentional tailspin and plunged into the Pacific Ocean. Jane Dornacker's career took off in the 1970s when she began reporting on traffic conditions from the skies above New York City. With her sharp wit and unflappable personality, she quickly became a beloved figure, entertaining listeners with her colorful descriptions of the gridlock below. Jane Dornacker, death by news. Dornacker tragically died in a helicopter crash on October 22, 1986, while giving a live traffic report for WNBC in New York City. The helicopter she was in experienced mechanical failure and plunged into the Hudson River. Kyu Sakamoto was a Japanese singer and actor who rose to fame in the 1960s. Known for his upbeat and catchy pop songs, Sakamoto became a cultural icon in Japan and beyond. Kyu Sakamoto, death by mountain. On August 12, 1985, Sakamoto was a passenger on Japan Airlines Flight 123, which crashed into Mount Takamagahara in Gunma Prefecture, Japan. This accident is known as the deadliest single aircraft accident in aviation history, with 520 fatalities. Harriet Quimby was a true trailblazer. She earned her pilot's license in 1911, just 2 years after the Wright brothers' historic first flight. Quimby then went on to make history again in 1912, when she became the first woman to fly across the English Channel. Harriet Quimby, death by fall. Quimby, a pioneering aviator, tragically died on July 1, 1912. She was piloting her 2-seater Blériot monoplane over Dorchester Bay, Massachusetts, when she lost control of the aircraft. Both she and her passenger, William Willard, were ejected from the plane and fell to their deaths. Leslie Howard was an English actor, producer, and director who rose to fame during the golden age of Hollywood. He is best known for his performances in films such as Gone with the Wind, Pygmalion, and The Scarlet Pimpernel. Leslie Howard, death by bad luck. Howard's life was cut short when the plane he was traveling on was shot down by German fighters over the Bay of Biscay in 1943. He was just 50 years old at the time. Despite his untimely death, Leslie Howard's legacy as one of the great actors of Hollywood's golden age endures. Beverly Homer DeLay was a true pioneer of early aviation. He performed death-defying stunts that left spectators breathless. DeLay soon adapted these thrilling maneuvers for the movies, appearing alongside some of Hollywood's biggest stars. Beverly Homer DeLay, death by sabotage. DeLay tragically died in a plane crash on July 4, 1923. The crash occurred during an air show in Venice, Los Angeles, and was suspected to be caused by sabotage due to professional jealousy. Despite the suspicions, no one was ever charged in connection with his death. Kyrie Jackson played college football for the Fort Scott Greyhounds, the Alabama Crimson Tide, and the Oregon Ducks. He was selected by the Minnesota Vikings in the 4th round of the 2024 NFL Draft, and his life was about to end. Kyrie Jackson, death by drunk driver. Jackson, along with 2 of his former high school teammates, died in a car crash in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. in the early morning hours of July 6, 2024, when another driver, who was drunk at the wheel, attempted to change lanes at a high speed and struck two vehicles, including the one in which Jackson was a passenger. He was 24. Dwayne Haskins, a talented American football quarterback. He was chosen by the Washington Redskins football team as the 15th overall pick in the first round of the 2019 NFL Draft. He later joined the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2021, unaware that his life would tragically end soon after. Dwayne Haskins' death by dump truck. On April 9, 2022, while in Florida for training camp, Haskins ran out of gas on his way to practice. In an attempt to reach a gas station across the busy freeway, he was struck by a dump truck and then run over by an SUV. Dwayne Haskins tragically died at the age of 24. Jeff Gladney was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in the first round of the 2020 NFL Draft and played as a cornerback in the NFL. Unfortunately, his career and life were about to be cut short. On March 16, 2022, Gladney was on top of the world. He had made a move and signed a big contract with the Arizona Cardinals. Then, on May 30, 2022, Gladney, who was speeding on the freeway with his girlfriend, Mercedes Palacios, both died when Gladney's Mercedes SUV clipped a car and spun off the road, crashed into a brick wall, and ignited into flames. Gladney was 25 years old. Palacios was 26. Trey Walker was an American professional football player who played as a cornerback for the Baltimore Ravens in the NFL. Born on August 5, 1992 in Miami, Florida, Walker was drafted by the Ravens in the fourth round of the 2015 NFL Draft and would die soon after. Trey Walker, death by joyride. On the evening of March 17, 2016, 23-year-old Walker went for an innocent joyride on a dirt bike down the street. Not wearing a helmet, he collided with another vehicle. He died the next day in the hospital from his injuries. Edwin Jackson was an American football linebacker who played in the NFL. Born on December 19, 1991 in Atlanta, Georgia, he played college football at Georgia Southern University, then signed with the Arizona Cardinals and later played for the Indianapolis Colts. But the good times were about to end. Edwin Jackson, death by drunk driver. On February 4, 2018, Jackson was a passenger in an Uber when Jackson suddenly felt ill and asked if they could pull over. The two men exited the vehicle when suddenly they were both struck by a drunk driver in a Ford F-150 pickup truck. Both Jackson and the Uber driver died at the scene. Chris Henry was an American professional football player who played as a wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals in the NFL. He showed great potential on the field, recording 119 receptions, 1,826 receiving yards, and 21 touchdowns over 5 seasons, but it was all about to end. Chris Henry, death by argument. Chris Henry tragically died in a car accident in 2009. He fell from the back of a moving truck during a domestic dispute. His fiancée was driving the truck at the time of the accident. He was 26 years old. Brandon Burlsworth was an inspiring figure in American football. Starting as a walk-on for the Arkansas Razorbacks, he would end up being drafted by the Indianapolis Colts 4 years later. His life and tragic death inspired a terrific movie called Greater, the Brandon Burlsworth Story. Brandon Burlsworth, death by bad luck. Brandon Burlsworth's story is indeed a tragic one. Just 11 days after being drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, he died in a car accident on April 28, 1999. Burlsworth was driving from Fayetteville to his hometown of Harrison, Arkansas, when his car collided with a tractor trailer. Jerry Brown was an American professional football linebacker who played in the NFL. He had a stint with the Indianapolis Colts and was with the Dallas Cowboys at the time of his untimely death at the age of 25. Jerry Brown, death by teammate. In the early morning of December 8, 2012, Brown was a passenger in a car driven by his Cowboys teammate Josh Brent. About 2:21 a.m., Brent drove the car at high speed into an outside curb on Texas State Highway 114 outside Dallas, causing the vehicle to flip at least once and then come to rest in the middle of a service road and catch fire. Brent survived, Jerry Brown did not. Fred Washington was a professional American football player who played as a defensive tackle for the Chicago Bears in the NFL. Born on July 11, 1967, in Denison, Texas, he had his promising career cut short during his rookie season. Fred Washington, death by tree. On December 21, 1990, Washington was driving northbound on Illinois 43 in the Chicago suburb where the Bears have their training camp. When he suddenly lost control of the vehicle, the car bounced off the right curb, crossed the road, and struck a tree. He was gone at the age of 23. Stacy Torren was an American football player who played as a defensive back for the Los Angeles Raiders. Born on October 11, 1961, in Indianapolis, Indiana. Little did he know that in 1989 he would have his life and career cut short. Stacy Torren, death by lack of seatbelt. Torren's life was cut short when he was involved in a car crash that shocked fans and fellow players alike. On August 5, 1989, Torren lost control of his BMW, which skidded, flipped multiple times, and crashed into a tree in Marina del Rey. He was not wearing a seatbelt and was ejected from the vehicle. He was 27. Andy Spiva, an NFL player who was a linebacker for the Atlanta Falcons. Spiva was known for his tenacity and grit on the field. Tragically, his career would be abruptly ended. Andy Spiva, death by weather. On April 3, 1979, Spiva was driving in rainy conditions when his sports car slid off of a street in the Atlanta area and collided with a tree. Spiva died at Northside Hospital that day after sustaining head and chest injuries. His passenger and teammate Garth Tennippel was also seriously injured in the crash, ending his NFL career. David Overstreet was a talented running back who played in both the Canadian Football League and the NFL, and was playing for the Miami Dolphins at the time of his horrific accident. David Overstreet, death by sleep. David Overstreet died in a car crash on June 24, 1984, at the age of 25. Overstreet fell asleep at the wheel while driving from Michigan to Texas, causing his car to swerve off the road and crash into gasoline pumps, which then exploded. His teammates from the Dolphins wore a helmet decal with the number 20 in his memory during their 1984 season. Ralph Norwood was an American football offensive tackle whose NFL dream had just come true. In 1989, at just 23, he was drafted and signed by the Atlanta Falcons. However, 11 games into the season, his life and career would be cut short. Ralph Norwood, death by tree. Norwood died in a one-car accident on November 24, 1989. He was alone in his car when he crossed over a lane of oncoming traffic, traveled down an embankment, and struck a tree. Many believe he fell asleep at the wheel. Eric Andolsek was an American football offensive lineman who played for the Detroit Lions in the NFL. After being drafted by the Lions in the 5th round of the 1988 NFL Draft, Andolsek quickly became a key player for the Lions, starting as an offensive guard and helping to block for the legendary running back Barry Sanders. But everything was about to end. Eric Andolsek, death by semi-trailer. Eric Andolsek had his life cut short on June 23, 1992, in what can only be described as a freak accident. He was run down by a semi-trailer truck while working in his yard in Thibodaux, Louisiana. The driver of the truck had taken his eyes off the road, missed a turn, and drove over Andolsec as he was cutting the grass. He was 25 years old. Rusty Chambers was an NFL linebacker who played for the New Orleans Saints and the Miami Dolphins. Chambers led the Dolphins in tackles for 2 consecutive years, until his life was tragically cut short. Rusty Chambers, death by weather. Shortly before midnight on July 1, 1981, Chambers perished in a car crash in Hammond, Louisiana, just 5 miles from his residence. He was traveling with friends when their vehicle slid off a damp road and overturned, resulting in Chambers' immediate death. To pay tribute to their lost teammate, the Dolphins adorned the back of each player's helmet with a patch bearing his number 51 throughout the 1981 season.